Welcome to That's Camellia Podcast. Hey, we're going to unpack some of those questions that you have. We're going to interview some guests and let's have a conversation. Come on, enjoy the show. I have an honor and a privilege to interview my girlfriend, longtime friend, Dana Williams. We have known each other for a very, very long time. Matter of fact, during this interview, she calls me by my childhood name, Diane. So, Dana Williams, y'all, she's going to share her story, her insight about perimenopause. She's a retired air traffic controller. Her mom, Dana's mom, was the first Black female certified FAA air traffic controller. Hence, Dana has 35 years collectively that she's worked for government services as an air traffic controller. Dana, a woman of many talents. She has her own interior design and decorating consulting business. Look her up, y'all. Designs by Dana. Check her out. Designs by Dana. And as another plug, she can put a yard together. Landscaping, that's also something that she does. Don't tell her I told you. In her spare time, what Dana does, she advocates for youth for the exposure in the field of aviation. She wants youth to know that you can be in aviation. Dream big. Y'all, enjoy this show and let me know what you think. If you want to share your story, put a note in the comments and I'm going to have you on. Back to That's Camellia Podcast. All right, ladies, we are still talking about perimenopause because it is a real thing. This craziness is real, and we're sharing our stories to make sure to let you know that you're not going through this thing by yourself. There are millions of women out there who are sometimes suffering alone. So this is to bring awareness about what this craziness is and to give you some insight and of all things, we want you to make sure that if you're having any of these symptoms, make sure that you go to your doctor, go to a hormone specialist, get your levels checked, but make sure you are doing your due diligence, not of all your homework, not of your Googling and all of your AI help that you're trying to get, but actually go to a doctor. And then, because every woman's journey is different, it's unique. So I have with me today my sister, my girlfriend, known for so many years, Dana Robinson. Girl, tell me how it started for you.
All right, I'll tell you how it started or how I came to find out what I had. Um, I would say back when I was 51 years old, I started having a little bit of mood swings and getting a little bit irritable. Went to my gynecologist. It was a male doctor, and he had did the test to check my estrogen level to see if it started dropping, which indicates that you're in menopause. And I was telling him I also had a hard time sleeping. I wasn't getting my rest. I figured it probably was from my shift work that I was doing. And so moving forward, he called in some medication. Well, not wanting to take medication, I didn't know it was for menopause. So a year later, after that happened, my mother had passed away, and I was in Hawaii at the time. After her passing, I went there to just kind of get my Zen moment. And I started having that same anxiety and all of a sudden I was getting a little hot, not knowing that I was in now full blown menopause, because the doctor didn't tell me. And so when I left Hawaii, I still didn't feel, relaxed or chill. I want to get in that chill mode. So I went ahead and went to a counselor, my therapist. And I started explaining to her how I was feeling very irritable, getting a little bit of anxiety at times. And then after that feeling, I would get this heat over from chest up through my head. And I started explaining to her what was going on. She said, Dana, that's menopause. And I'm like, what? She said, so I made an appointment with my OBGYN again and told him that, hey, I'm in menopause. He goes, yeah, you were in menopause last year. He said, your estrogen level dropped and I gave you medication for that. And I'm like, but you didn't explain to me that I was in menopause. You just, he wrote a prescription And I'm thinking, you know what? This whole year that I've been suffering, I've been actually was in menopause, full blown. Perimenopause, I just considered.
51. So 51 is when you went to the male doctor and he told you your estrogen levels are low and then he prescribed you something. But were you taking it?
I didn't take it because he didn't tell me. I didn't. He never. This is the thing about it. That's why I said I do believe in all female doctors because they, because I didn't know. My mom, I couldn't go to her because she never did explain to me about having menopause. She kept saying, "No, I had a hysterectomy when I was 28 years old or 27," and she said, "And I'm not." She said, "Go to your aunt. Ask your aunt." Right. But by this time, I didn't go to her at that moment, but he never said that I was in menopause. He just wrote out a prescription. I guess he felt like I knew.
Huh?
He should have told me. He never explained to me that my levels were low or were dropping. So that's why I suffered a whole nother year with struggling with this lack of sleep, dealing with not I didn't have I wouldn't say flashing like I have now where I actually get wet. I mean my whole face is moist and everything else. It's a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And but once I talked to my counselor, she was telling me then everything you explained to me, the like you said, the craziness, that's the part. You wake up, you're fine, and all of a sudden you kind of get irritable. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
last too long, and then you start getting anxiety for no reason, and then
Mm-hmm.
come on the heat.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that's to let me know. So even now, even though we're talking 10 years later, 11 years later, I'm experiencing it again. But the
Mm-hmm.
difference is I know what's going on. I know now when I'm feeling with anxiety, I just wait a couple of minutes and here comes the flash. But this time it's not a flash. It is a full blown, like a sprinkler out my forehead. Okay.
Wow.
Water, everything is coming on. And it is a very awkward time in my life because I am single
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of shied away from even wanting to date because when I've been on a date, just a little, you get a little bit of butterflies when you get ready to start dating again at, you're in your 60s. And it never fails. Once I get there, to meet whoever I'm, interested in. And next thing I know, it's a trigger. It's here I'm getting, once again, the hot flash comes on and it's coming in and it then just, I mean, actually, I'm telling you right now that I'm talking, I'm having one now.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh,
very uncomfortable, because the guy doesn't know whether just to fan you or what, get you a big cup of glass of ice, so it's
I
embarrassing to me.
Oh yes. I can't even imagine because I mean you're single. I can't even imagine going through that being single. Now, my husband, he didn't have the he's like going through this journey with me. So I know it's like hell, I'm 1 minute I'm everybody's freezing and I'm fine. I'm just like I'm good. I'm good. And they got sweatsuits on and jackets and blankets and I'm like I'm fine. But I can't even imagine. I was going to get a male perspective as well because they who have to watch us go through this. It's part of life, ladies. I don't know if there's a lady where you're not going to experience some one of these symptoms: lack of sleep, anxiety, fatigue. You don't want to be bothered. Mood swings. Hot flashes, night sweats. The- It's going to happen.
Yes, the
It's gonna happen.
struggle is real. The struggle is very real. And if you are married, and sometimes it helps for you to take your mate with you to the OBGYN and explain what you're going through. Because as we know, back in the 40s and 50s, women were actually committed into an institution because of all the strange acting and everything else. They didn't know how to handle it.
Hmm.
And so now that we know this, but having a mate, going through and an understanding what you're going through, because I've talked to some of my friends that are married, and they said it's great when their mate understands. Like she said, when my girlfriends went on a little retreat, she and her husband, and she said, the sweetest thing, I didn't care about the diamond necklace. It was the fact that he brought me a cup of ice, a fan, and everything else right before she went to bed because he knew she was going to pull the cover over. So that fan kept her cool. She could sip on the ice water. She said that was the sweetest thing because he understood that night sweats, you
Isn't that
know.
something? That's what I'm talking about. That's doing life with one another,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly, exactly.
In all seasons of our life, right, Dana? So I want to
Yeah.
go back to what you said. Your male doctor gave you a prescription and you sat on it, didn't do anything for a year.
He
Now,
never. Yes.
yeah, so that part. So I had a male OBGYN who gave me some estradiol and I did use it. However, it caused me to come on my cycle. And I had stopped having a cycle for a year. And then
Yeah.
I used that and I came on my cycle. And I was like, oh, no, ma'am. No, this is not happening. No, this is not going to work right here. And I was still having the hot flashes. So it didn't help. So I can appreciate what you said is I need a woman doctor. I need somebody who got the same body and who going to experience or have experienced the same thing I have, who can tell me about this, who's going to make it make sense. Because
Yes.
you're not going to make it make sense because you don't have night sweats.
I don't have it now, but as we go back to piggyback on the medication, that is the lowest doses they will give women when their estrogen is dropping, right?
Yeah.
So in your case, when he increased your estrogen, that's what gave you back your periods. By me having a partial hysterectomy at 46, when I realized the medication, when he said, Dana, that's why I gave it to you because your estrogen dropped. I did. I mean, I had the best sleep in the world. I was able to get my rest. When I took that pill, when it hit 9:30 or 10, if I'm on the phone with you, I will wake up and that phone is on my hip, on my neck, because I don't even remember what was going on. I mean, that was the best sleep in the world. But looking back now, because I'm not able to take any estrogen to help me out due to the fact of having breast cancer, 10 years cancer free.
Breast cancer survivor. Hallelujah. Praise
Yeah,
the Lord. Thank you,
yeah,
Jesus.
that's a blessing.
Yes, it
And
is.
so I will say this, Diane, what I did like about the medicine, it did help me. It took away the hot flashes for
Mm,
me. And also I was able to sleep. But when we get things that are man-made, right, and it's
mm,
created by different types of chemicals, it ended up bringing on for me was melasma. So there's always a side effect to whatever we take.
mm.
And so that happened probably when I started taking the medication later, when I realized what it was for. I started having pigmentation over pigmentation. So like with you, you started having a cycle. For me, the side effect was melasma. So
Mm.
being in menopause, there's so many things that they're creating, to stop women from having night sweats and all that. But then we have to look at the side effects that comes along with it.
Yeah,
At this moment, I would probably say, yeah, let me get some sleep. I'll take the over pigmentation if I get some
yeah,
rest.
yeah.
But I will say that. But that is the lowest doses they normally start women off. So we having a female doctor and explaining to her, what you're looking at and what you want to become back whole, as we say, being able to think rational and not. And I'm not saying that we're just running straight crazy. It's just at those moments, little things. I was even now I'm watching the Olympics, 2024 in Paris and crying
Yeah.
of winning.
Yeah. You could just see a tomato and it's rotten at the top and you start crying. I mean, it's from 0 to 100 easily.
Yes.
0 to 100. And yeah, there's no explanation for it. I mean, and I was like, why are we not as women and also women of color? Why are we not talking about this more? Is I don't want to talk about your hair. I don't want to talk about your outfit. Girl, how are you getting sleep?
Yeah.
I mean, are you
That is so real because I have, okay, being a retired air traffic controller, when I was having those mood swings, I called in and just told them I had an upset stomach or something, whatever, not to go to work because I didn't trust me. So if I didn't trust me, then I
Yeah,
didn't trust what I was going to do at work, and lives are at stake. So you
right.
have people that are in those positions, and even my girlfriend who was she was a pharmacist, and she said, Dana, I have to have my sleep. I don't want to get in there and mix the wrong medicine for someone. So these things are very real, and it affects not just your home life with having your house cold, your job life, your relationships with other people, because if they don't understand exactly what you're going through, it's difficult. I'm not just saying with the males, but also with the females, because I have friends that are of all ages, and they don't. If I snap, that will be like, oh girl, you need some medicine, or some of them like get offended, but not really realizing that, hey, I'm just having a moment.
Right.
Give me time to regroup. So
Right.
yes, it is. I mean, it affects you in every aspect of your life. I said dating, just the difference with your friends, health
Yeah.
wise. As you said, you started your cycle again, and now that's another cost of going back and out and buying pads and everything else, tampons and all that.
I
So
ain't doing that mess. I was like, no, you know, I stopped
exactly.
taking it. I was like, no, I ain't doing that. No, we're gonna try something else. So, I mean, like we said earlier, every woman's journey is different. That's why you have to. We have to talk about it. Tell me what you did. What happened for you? And it might work for me and it might not. My sister uses the patch. The patch works for her. Patch did not work for me. I still had hot flashes. And my biggest thing, Dana, was sleep. Oh, I
Oh yeah.
have to have mental clarity. And I can't have mental clarity if I'm getting 2 hours of sleep. Oh, no,
And
no.
that's what happens. Your sleep is interrupted.
Right.
And that's of all ages, because like I said, perimenopause can start as early as 18 years old.
Oh, no.
Anytime you have any type of change in your reproductive system, it can trigger. Cancer can trigger different things. So people think, oh, it's just the age. No, it's not the age. I was at Walmart and this lady was frustrated. Her cart wasn't going through or wasn't right, and she was perspiring. Her hair was, glued to her head now because all the perspiration over her face. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, don't worry, take your time. I understand. I'm in menopause too. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, it gets a little bit worse sometimes. And she said, ma'am, I've been through this since I was 18 years old.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm thankful mine was later,
yeah.
in my 50s, but I just cannot imagine with these young women who are going through perimenopause at age that they shouldn't. Not to say that they wouldn't have any children, it's just the fact this is what it is. That's part of life, perimenopause. As you just stated, Diane, you started your cycle again. No one's
Mm-hmm.
trying to have another child at such a
No,
late age, but
do you hear
that,
me? In my late
yes,
40s, 50s, I don't want no cycle.
now. But I will say this. You mentioned, your older sister going through it, and by her being a friend of mine as well, I
Mhm.
noticed her moods are more steady. She's not
Yes.
up and down. And she couldn't understand why she would get depressed one moment and didn't want to be bothered with the family, just watch TV. That's part of it. I mean, some of the changes really affect you. And even though it's not long lasting,
Mm-hmm.
but the last thing you want to hear is people say, girl, you're so moody. I'm not
Yeah.
sure about you, but not so that, as you said, we do have to embrace the womanhood. We gotta say, hey, the womanhood. We gotta embrace the womanhood and say, look, let's talk about it. Because I will go right back to the fact when my mom said talk to my aunties because my mother was in menopause. I think she just didn't embrace it. But when I did talk to my aunt and she said, oh yes, the anxiety is so horrible at times. She said I was driving. She told me she was driving one day and for no reason it just came over her. She said I had to pull over, and all I did on the side of the road was cry. And I
Oh.
mean, that's that's me. Just having someone, as you mentioned, Diane, talking to other women, and ones that can relate to you, and the ones that you can relate also that can give you some nuggets to help you
Mhm.
get through this. Because it's going to come and go.
Yeah.
I have friends that are in their 70s that just now having night sweats, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh Lord, please
Mm.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, oh, I know exactly where you're going. Dana, I was at a nursing home the other day. We were volunteering and I was trying to help a little lady. This was her third day at the facility and she had just got through eating and she had been diagnosed with early stages of dementia. And she was telling me, she said, sweetie, can you call this number and tell them to come get me? I'm ready to go. And as I was trying to get help, the air conditioner was out in the dining hall. So I was trying to, really be nice and respectful. I said, yeah, just go ahead. Let me see the number. And then I said, oh, wait a minute. They said you have a caregiver. She's going to come and she's going to help you. And she was like, I don't have a caregiver, sweetie. Call this number. So she was more adamant. And all of a sudden, Dan, my head start sweating. And when my head starts sweating, I just start putting my hands on my head and just trying to move smooth out the sweat. Okay, this sweet little lady, she was digging in her purse. She said, "Here, you want a napkin?" All we could both do is crack up. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, "Thank you so much." I said, "I don't know where this came from." In the middle of her complaining about somebody coming to get her, I was having just all out flash. And she, in her right mind, said, here's a napkin. I was laughing, but I was embarrassed. I was like, this makes no sense.
No, but that's where you have to realize your triggers. Um, and food. Like I said, me going on a date, right? And to
Mhm.
meet that person the first time, that was a trigger because I knew I'm going to be already a little anxious about meeting. That's normal. But
Uh,
now it's a trigger also when you're like what you're doing. You knew that she had a caregiver. But in the midst of it, it works and our hormones goes up and down, and that triggers you to even having a hot flash.
yeah,
And so that for me, if I know someone, I can go out and eat with friends and male friends that I know that been knowing, no problem sometimes. But when there's someone new, that's when I know I'm going to have a hot flash. So when I went out with a friend of mine, first date, and I just got my fan out. I got it from Amazon. My little one. I sent one to your sister as well. Got out, sat it on there, and had the fan going. So I figured, okay, now if he can understand why I have the fan out and everything else. And he looked over at me, and he's an older gentleman, and he says, "Oh, you're getting ready for a summer moment." I said, "I don't know when it's coming, but I just want to have it out so I can kind of
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
tripping everywhere all over the place." But yes, it's any little trigger. Like for me, even anything with sugar, wine. Wine is a very big culprit. I mean, because of the sulfate, the fermented, and everything else. Anything with high, I would say anything with a high concentration of sugar definitely will trigger you having a high flash.
That's good to know
And
your triggers because I'm recognizing that my triggers and mine was Dana. I used to be sweets. I love chocolate, love sweets. I can't do a lot of sweets now. I mean, I get enough for a bite, and that's it. That's the most I will allow myself to do because I know if I keep having what I want, oh, I'm gonna have some flashes to follow, and I don't want that. So I'm glad you brought that up about triggers. That is so good to take away.
oh yeah, definitely. And what you just said was chocolate. The thing that being in menopause, we we actually crave what we should not have.
Well,
And we crave what we should not have. Like the reason why I was getting a little bit at the beginning, when you and I were having a little difficulty, technical, difficulties, that
mhm,
triggered me into getting having a hot flash because I'm
mhm,
like, I'm trying to get this thing right. But and it does, like I said, when I say it messes with your relationships and stuff, like when I go out with some of my girlfriends and everybody's having, a little bit of wine, I would like to have wine, but now there's, oh, Dana don't drink. Dana don't drink. You know,
right,
and I used to have a glass of wine. I'm not doing it now. I went to a birthday party and my girlfriend had just turned 55. And so I said, oh, I'll try something different. I won't have wine. Thinking just wine, right? Not knowing that it was sugar. So I had
mhm.
a pina colada. Well, that's sweet.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I think
Oh,
it was only 7 women, but everybody was fanning me. I mean, I was so embarrassed. And I kept
okay.
apologizing. I said, I'm sorry. I know it's your birthday, but they got the fans out. They're like, and I could not stop perspiring. I mean, my face, my neck, because normally it's upper body, but I tell you what, I was just so embarrassed because she's like, oh my God, are you all right? And I'm like, and then I realized it was the sugar. But I thought by not drink. I thought it was wine. So as time went on, I started learning more about my triggers. So it's good, Diane, that chocolate. You even try a dark chocolate thing. It's not as sweet, but all of that stuff will trigger you having a hot flash. So, like I said, knowing your triggers, it kind of helps because then you'll know, okay, I won't even have a mint when I go to church. I'll wait until I leave church. If I want a peppermint or something like where I always carry my purse because it's going to trigger on the sweetness is going to trigger a hot flash, and that's the last thing I want to do is just a church fanning where I can't even hear what's going on.
Mhm, mhm.
you know. But
So,
so
so what have you learned, Dana, with that's really good about recognizing your triggers and then also making sure you seek out a female doctor. And then I like that you brought up that it's okay to go see a counselor because this is real. It affects your moods, your mental, your spiritual. It affects your whole being. And I don't know about you, but I need my whole self to come to be present every single day with my life. Every single day I need every piece of Camellia to be here. So as you think about like women who, like you mentioned, starting as early as 18, just based off of, how your body changes, what are some of, a couple of things that you would high on your top of your list that you would say that these are the things I think you need to do first off? I mean, I tell people, they say don't Google stuff. I mean, you shouldn't, because it will take you down this downward spiral, and you'll diagnose yourself and you'll be in the grave before you know it. I'm like, first, like you, I'm like, get you a woman doctor. I am
Yes.
biased. I want a woman doctor. But tell me about your view, because you've been on this journey longer than I have. So I'm seeking you out for not only my audience but for myself as well.
Well, and that's what you just said is a golden nugget, because as time went on, my mom was not helpful because she kept saying she wasn't. Even though I saw the signs now, I can look back. But when she told me to go talk to my aunt, that's what made me talk to women that are 5, 10 years older than I am or more, because they have a lot to give back to you. And mainly, like you said, I learned more about my triggers through trial and error. But when I went to my counselor, that's what made me feel whole. I thought I was losing my mind because, because when you're in a state of anxiety, even if it's just 10 minutes, your mind is racing because you're like, wait a minute, this is not me, and I'm
Right,
the type of
right,
person,
right.
I always want to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
And so having someone who truly, can come back and tell you and agree, yes, this is what you're going through. And when you feel all right. When I left her office, I'm like, oh, I'm not going crazy, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that gave me a reassurance that this is who I am. This is a moment. This season is going to last, and it'll go away. But like I said, unknowns to me, I thought everybody said 10 years. There is no date on. There's no time frame on
Say
whether or
that
not.
again. Say that again. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there's no time frame. Like I said, the young lady that was eight, says, well, she was in her 40s when I saw her at the store, but she mentioned she was starting at 18. And I also know other triggers can do it when we have anything done to our reproductive system, whether you have tubal ligation, even having a hysterectomy, sometime will trigger it. 'Cause like I said, I was 46 years old when I had my partial, and I kept my ovaries because, once again, the same male doctor, he did mention to me, he said, Danny, you have bad PMS. You sure you want to keep your ovaries? But I've talked to women that have had their ovaries out, and psychologically they still have something going on. So, there's nothing, no black and white way of looking at this. There's a lot of gray. And you mentioned about not going to Google. The only time that I think I Googled was because of the symptoms. And I think they at that time said 12, the fatigue, the weight gain, the increased craving for food, sweet
Mhm.
foods, comfort food. And then it's also talked about, the night sweats and all that. And I'm like, God, they listed 12 and I think I got 20,
Yeah.
so now I'm thinking, what about the other eight? Because I do know I have more.
Mhm.
And the funny thing about it, Diane, I look back when my mom kept saying, and she didn't, like I said, she didn't believe in it. But a lot of her medication was for um, menopause, anxiety, this and that. And she just said, no, I don't have that. So, it's okay. But looking back on it now, I probably would have. I mean, I retired early because I wanted to retire, but part of it was because, some occupations not allow you to take anything that might be mind controlling, as they say. So I didn't
Yeah.
want to go through the hassle of that because I know I needed something. I know I needed to keep grounded. As you say, you want to be a whole
Mhm.
person again.
I need
So
that in my life.
exactly. And I tell you what, so I retired. I retired at 54. And because now I'm like, if I wanted to take something, I could and feel good about it. I used to just carry around that pampering, you know, and you can take that and go to work. I was taking pampered, I was popping pampering like it was candy, you
Yeah.
know. Get
Yeah.
me through this mood swing. But I will say that's one of the main things, having a female OBGYN, someone who can understand you. And if you don't feel comfortable, definitely switch out. Don't, I mean, I think as people, we tend to think, okay, we kind of, the reason why doctors have that godlike persona is because we look at them that way. Don't
Mm-hmm.
be afraid to say, okay, this woman is not understanding me and where I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming from, and I'm not getting what I need. I need to move on.
This is not
Okay.
a good fit.
Right.
Next.
If it's not a good fit, move on because you need someone at this time. Is such a delicate moment for you, and you're very fragile at times. Not the
Mm-hmm.
women are very strong. I'm not saying about being weak, but when you are going through and you're carrying the weight of the world because you have your husband you got to care for, you have your children, you have your grandchildren. You're still running all that, but now you're just a little out of balance.
Yeah,
So you want to get the scales to even out again. So
that's good.
that's why I could always have someone that can speak life into you in your situation. And I
Mm-hmm.
would also say, write down your triggers. The way I filled out how I knew about what was going on with me, I mentioned earlier that I would be irritable and then I would get this anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hot flash came on. So
Mm-hmm.
now, even now, if I get a little anxiety, I wait a couple of minutes, hot flash it. Oh, that's what that was. Let me keep on cooking, you
Yeah,
know. But
yeah.
before it would come on and it would freak me out, and I'm thinking, why am I feeling this way?
Mm-hmm.
Is something going to happen? Did something happen to somebody? Because you're trying to figure out where did this come. Because when it comes from just out of the blue. Like it drops out of the sky. You're walking, you're enjoying life, and all of a sudden here you get a whiff of like,
Yeah.
you
Just
know.
like you said, from your chest to the head up.
Exactly. 0 to 100. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I would say to my single women, it is good to, as time goes on and you meet someone and you want to share your life with them, they will understand. For me, for me at my age, they will understand. Most men are like, okay, my ex-wife, or my deceased
Yeah.
wife
Right.
went through that because I don't really want to be in any type of relationship to where you don't understand me and I don't understand why you're not understanding me because, at this age, this is part of life. I've heard some guys, well, aren't you too old to be going through it? Shouldn't you have been done with it?
Oh yeah.
You're almost 65 years old. I'm like, there's no age.
Emotional awareness.
Yeah, exactly. Emotional awareness. Like you said, your husband understanding. So when he comes home and it's all right to put a robe on because you're having a moment and you got it at 55 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know,
I like how you said too to take and people who are married, take your husband to the doctor with you so he can hear that. Sometimes we can't even explain, we can't even articulate what's going on with us. But sometimes you bring that spouse and then that spouse gonna be able to tell the doctor, so look, this is what happened. Oh, she
uh,
goes from 0 to 100. I don't know what mood she in, and she's freezing everybody. And at night, she gets real wet. I mean, just
exactly.
soaked. I mean, you need somebody else there. If you can't explain it, bring them with you. And like you said, for people who are single, that's right. If you run into somebody, to a male, at this season of our life, and you don't know about menopause, shame on you.
Yeah,
You have not been walking around in this world because there's plenty of us
exactly.
out here who got it,
Exactly.
and it's not a bad thing. It's just a journey. It's
It is. And
think
you
of it
want
as another
someone.
Olympic race, right?
There you go. And you definitely, Diane, as we speak, you definitely want somebody as you're going through this journey to not just understand and support. And like I said, when my girlfriend got her diamond necklace that he bought her or whatever, some type of diamond, and she was more excited and just thrilled the fact that the little things, the fan by the bed. He brought a fan with him because they were going on a trip and he brought a fan and had the cup of ice because he knew she needed, and that was, it meant the world to her because having someone else understand you and have knowledge about what you're going through. So I think that is very important in any type of relationship, even with your girlfriends. When you may snap at them and they understand, okay, girl. We used to always say, oh, they must be on the rag. Now,
Yeah,
well, now we're not on the rag. We just on a moment.
yeah. We're on the moment, and we
Exactly.
understand, and being
Exactly.
open enough to accept that feedback. Say, oh, okay, is that time? We're good. We're good. I understand, girl. I had one of those the other day and went off, so I
Yeah.
got it,
And
and
one
not take
thing,
offense.
exactly. And one thing I will say, Diane, when I go back to dealing with health, yes, you're going to have different side effects, maybe sometimes the medicine. I think you talked to me and reached out about going to see a doctor that can actually take my hormones and recreate it. And I'm looking forward to doing something like that due to the fact of having, like I said, cancer 10 years ago. But,
Hmm.
start knowing about your body. whether your breasts are getting enlarged, whether they're feeling tender,
Mm-hmm.
um, being uncomfortable because of vaginal dryness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that right there is a major thing for women because they just think, okay, what's going on with me? And now there's things you can buy over the counter that can relieve some of those issues, and I have a girlfriend and she and I are the same age, and she kept saying, then I felt like I had razor blades. And she went in, she said it was just being vaginal dryness
Yeah.
to a certain degree. So we have to be, caring, and our skin will change, our hair will
Mm-hmm.
change.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, and like I said, the fatigue part, especially with that, is number one, because as we don't get our rest, you start getting the bags in our eyes, and that adds
Mm-hmm.
to your being irritable. That's not even a part of it's triggered from the menopause, but that also increases the irritability of not being able to get your rest.
Right. Right. Sleep deprivation is real.
Yeah,
It's real. And we have to be aware of it. So I like what you said to pay attention to your body. We have to, our bodies will talk to us. Your body will tell you what's going on. And when you don't
yeah.
know or it don't feel right, don't look right, go get some help. Go get checked out. And if it's and
Exactly.
whoever checking you out, if it still don't validate what's going on with you, go to someone else. Don't feel
Uh,
bad.
yes.
Go to
No, I mean, that is good. That's 100. That's what you need to know. I mean, like I said, when I was getting ready to actually just get me another OBGYN, I did anyway, but he had retired. But at that time, I wasted 2 years. I wasted a year of him doing it, and he just wrote the prescription out.
Mhm.
And not knowing, and then here I go to went to a therapist and realized, okay, everything I'm doing, I was so happy. But then I got my good sleep when I got the estradiol. Like I said, it's good to definitely seek out for help on both. Your mental health is very important. So going to see a therapist, I believe in that 100%.
Mhm. Mhm.
100%. And also knowing to get a good one. When you get a good one, they can really get you through the hurdles, of, especially when you're going through a loss of a family and dealing with things like that triggers a life period for you. Is so, like I said, I was dealing with my mother's death, her passing with cancer. And then I was dealing with still working and other things going on, emptiness. It was a lot. So to me, I'm thinking I was
That's a
just
lot, Dana.
losing it, not realizing that a lot of it was menopause, where once I got that somewhat under control with medication, I can go about my life.
Yeah. Sometimes we do need another voice in the room.
Exactly.
You need to hear
Exactly.
somebody else's voice instead of your own, just because we can mull around so many different scenarios and situations, but invite somebody else in the room, just like Dana, you brought up, getting a therapist, getting a counselor, life coach, whoever, girlfriend. You need another voice in the room.
Exactly. Exactly. We do. Because we can get on our knees being praise the Lord. I need an answer. And his answer may
Hmm.
be coming through someone else. Maybe you're a good friend, your
Right.
neighbor, whoever you're talking to. So we have
Right.
to be open minded about the situation, because when you're doing it alone, as you stated at the beginning of the podcast,
Mhm.
it makes you enclose more. It makes you throw up more walls because you're thinking you're the only one, even though we
Mhm.
know about menopause for years, but until you're in it, you don't know everything about it. You don't know enough, because I had a situation on a flight, and I'm thinking, okay, here I am, on this plane, and I'm having a hot flash just before I knew I was with menopause. I
Yeah.
thought I was gonna die on the plane because I got hot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started feeling flustered. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I gotta get off the plane. And not realizing that was one of my beginning of my hot flashes. So I didn't know. So every time I got one, it was like 8 months apart. It wasn't like now where it's 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like it's 8 minutes. So yeah,
Sometimes it feels
another
that
part
way.
about yes. So
Dana, thank you so much for sharing and enlightening us about your journey. Thank you so much. This is a journey of our stories where we want to inspire and encourage other women about the season of perimenopause and menopause. Alone by yourself. There are other women out here that are going through this journey with you. And we want to share our journey just to let you know what has worked for us. If it doesn't work for you, keep trying, keep listening to your doctor. Try different doctors, and like Dana brought up, recognize your triggers, recognize your body. seek out, a counselor, someone to help validate these concerns because they are valid. This craziness is
Exactly.
valid. So, Dana,
And
thank you so much for being on That's Camellia Podcast.
I enjoyed it myself. And like I said, don't just look at your age. If you're feeling any way different, even at, in your 20s or 30s, please go in and check because there's other things, like I said, estrogen as it decreases, lets them know, the doctors know that you're in full menopause. But before that, even if your estrogen is still level, you could be in perimenopause. And that's just important, to
Yeah.
know. So that way you don't feel alone.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you so much. I love
I
you.
thank you. I love you more.
All right, that's all we have for today. Join me next time on That's Camellia Podcast, where we're going to continue our conversations. Make it a great day.